those of you who've seen the Potomac Chapter's programs probably know Rodney because we've presented a number of programs with his images. But for those who don't, he was a prolific photographer. He worked for the B&O and then Chessie and CSX. So he knew railroading extremely well. And from 1963 to 1970, he was a project engineer on the B&O engineering office in Akron, Ohio. So he was in a perfect location to photograph these two railroads. Most of these images are from the mid 60s. I think we go into, at the latest, 1971. And we're going to travel generally from east to west by railroad. So let me bring up the screen. So without further ado, we'll start. And I'm going to start with Erie-Lackawanna, and that's my title slide. First pictures in Painted Post, New York. The dates are on the bottom, as you can see, and some captions if you need to look at that information. This is
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the first Erie-Lackawanna freight paint scheme.
Yeah. Okay, was that based off the Lackawanna scheme, or was it totally new?
Totally new, totally different.
All right.
But they are the Erie's freight colors.
Right. Okay. Thanks. It's a set of F3s at Painted Post, and we have a number of shots from the same area we'll start with. And here's another set of F3s with an engineer that's given us a wave, also at Painted Post, with a slightly different version of that scheme.
Actually, Jim, that was the Erie Railroad's freight paint scheme, and all they did was make the E in the front into kind of an E-L.
Okay, and got rid of the wings.
No, the wings are there.
No, but I mean, on the previous photo, we had no wings.
Oh, yeah, right,
yeah,
right.
Okay. And here we are at Irwin, New York, with another set of F3s. See if I can move. I've got some, there we go. I've got some windows on here that block some of the image, so I got rid of those. Now we're in Lakewood, New York, with C424 and 3 Alco FBs. And now here's our first look at the Erie passenger train.
So that locomotive is in the Erie passenger paint scheme.
Okay. And I noticed we have a lot of head-end traffic, and apparently the Erie used what some would call a truck train configuration early on with intermodal traffic.
Are those trailers related to passenger baggage or express, or is that just normal freight?
I would imagine it's express traffic rather than
I would think so
freight.
too.
Yeah, yeah. All right, now we're in Meadville, which is actually now the terminus of the current WNYP, which took over a lot of Erie traffic in Pennsylvania, a lot of which now is being deactivated. I read recently that the line between Jamestown and Sagertown is now out of service. Nonetheless, back in the day, it was a through passenger route.
Okay, so you can see here, the 815 is in the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western passenger scheme, and the 2 units behind are in the Erie passenger scheme.
Now we're in Meadville itself with a set of FAs and FBs. And another shot from Meadville with an ABBA consist. And here's a set of F units This is, I believe, from my visits to Meadville, probably a westbound coming into the terminal. Now we're at Geneva, PA, with another set of Alcos on a freight. And here's an intermodal, also at Geneva. Now this slide was listed as Brockway, PA, which is actually now on the Buffalo and Pittsburgh. At that point, it was a B&O subsidiary, which is not Erie or Erie-Lackawanna traffic. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but there is a caboose ahead of these 5 units. So I'm thinking we may have a helpers set on the rear of a train that's maybe a detour or something offline. Now we're in Warren, Ohio. And an interesting note, again, from the slide, this is gauntlet track, and I'm not sure the purpose of that. Obviously going by a station platform with an interesting set of F3s and RS 2 or 3, and then a B unit trailing in the consist. Again in Warren, a solid set of RS3s with the new, more colorful Erie-Lackawanna scheme on the lead unit. The other two are in the earlier scheme. Warren, Ohio again with a solid set of F units on a freight. Here we are in Leavittsburg, Ohio, with a C424, an FB1, an FB1, and a GP7. This is where the Erie line, or the Erie-Lackawanna line to Cleveland diverged, if I'm not mistaken. Bob, can you confirm that?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. Phalanx, Ohio, some train masters, 2 FM H2466 train masters on a freight train.
Yeah, those train masters are Lackawanna Heritage units. They were purchased by the D.L. and W.
Okay. And we got 2 different schemes here. The newer scheme on the trailing unit. All right, we're in Ravenna, Ohio, with I think 3 C424s. And again, we've got some intermodal traffic. Also in Ravenna, 2 C424s. This is in Brady Lake with a trio of U25Bs and an F unit. Now we have a series from Kent, Ohio. 4 units leading a freight. I think what we've got is what? EMDs on the front and rear, and 2 Alco B units in the center. A set of U25s on the point of a freight in Kent. Same location with a passing train with a GP35 Interesting. The train on the right's got a U-25B and a F unit or an E unit. I can't tell from this picture, Bob. Can you? That it's got to be an F3 with that.
It looks like an F3 to
yeah,
me,
yeah,
because it's got chicken wire I can
Right.
see behind the
Yeah.
cab.
yeah. Although Erie was also known to use E units and PAs in freight, weren't they?
Yes, but that was much later on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This is the station at Kent, home of Kent State University. We all remember what happened back there many years ago, which is not part of this conversation. Two SD-45s with a trailer train. All right, now we're also in Kent, and this is number 5, the Lake Cities, passing a freight train. Talmadge, Ohio, U-25B leader with a pair of GP-35s trailing. Oh, a number of shots here from Akron, probably, I think, near the station where didn't the B&O, the Pensy, and the Erie-Lackawanna all funnel through very close to each other. Akron passing a Quaker Oat silo with 2 E8s on a passenger train. This is Akron Junction, another passenger train with a mixed consist here of EMDs with a Jeep in the middle of the consist, F7A, F7B, F35, and another F7A. And now we have an interesting set, an SD-45, a U-33C, another 33C on a intermodal train in Akron. Some Elcos leading a freight through the depot area in Akron, and I believe this is probably a B&O CPL there. I believe this here is the pedestrian access to the station. There's the bus terminal up there with a pair of Alcos, a 425 and a 424. It's another shot of the Lake Cities in Akron. Here's an S4 doing some switching in Akron, Ohio.
That's a nice industrial shot there with that factory.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting to look at. I mean, I've always been inclined to put buildings in the pictures that I take, tend to avoiding pedestrians and cars. But when you look at some of these images with the old cars from the 50s and 60s, you think maybe you should put that Ford Explorer in your photograph when you take it at the grade crossing these days. Someday it will look quite interesting. Here we're back in the station area with number 8, the Atlantic Express, with a pair of E units and a fair amount of head-end traffic. Same location with an BBA of F3s. Same location, similar photograph. Little difference in the striping here. Now we're at Action Junction, which is just outside of town with a U-25B. Another, I think there's a typo down there. There's another U-25B in the C-424. Nobody made U-35Bs that I'm aware of.
That's correct.
I'll have to have a talk with my editor. All right, now we're in the Cleveland area, where train masters were used on ore and coal trains. Here's a set of H-2466s. And if my recollection serves me, this was labeled a coal train on Rodney's slide.
By the way, that's the way the red and gray ones is the way they came from the factory to the Delaware-Lackawanna and
Yeah.
Western.
Yeah. So they just relettered them to Erie-Lackawanna.
I believe that's
Or,
correct.
yeah, so they came this, okay. And this slide was labeled ore train for the Youngstown branch. Again, with a set of train masters leading.
It still looks like coal cars back there. Did they not
Yeah.
have smaller cars for ore?
Not down there.
Yeah.
The ore jennies that you're talking about were found up on the iron ranges.
Yeah, they would not load these fully if they were hauling ore.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because they wouldn't hold the weight of a full car of ore. And another shot that Rodney labeled ore chain for the Youngstown branch, again in Cleveland. Now we're in Sterling, Ohio. A freight with U-25Bs passing another train. And this is Sterling. This is the tower that protected the B&O Erie-Lackawanna crossing. Nice with the semaphores as well as the tower. Intermodal train. Then ABBBA. Same location, a little sunnier, and set of SD45s and a new 25B.
You see the semaphores have been replaced by
Yes.
searchlights.
Yeah, well, and that's in 71. Whoops, let's go back. That's in 64, so 7-year interval.
Right.
Yeah. And the paint scheme is different on the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other side of the tracks, again in Sterling, F3A, F3B, and FA1, and another FA1. Bob, you know the layout enough to know, are this train east or westbound?
I do not, sorry.
I'm thinking it's eastbound from when I looked at the map, but I'm not sure. Again, at Sterling here, we've got the semaphores back in 64. The tower behind the third car. This is also at Sterling. Rather eclectic consist there with the C-424 in with the F units. And a wave from the head end fireman, perhaps. I don't know who would be sitting in that seat back in 1964.
Fireman
Yeah.
or brakeman.
Yeah,
Probably fireman.
yeah. Also at Sterling, semaphore in the background. Again in 64. Looks like the same location, a little colder weather. I don't think that I have a symbol on this train. Well, wait, that might be the westbound number 7 Pacific Express.
Well, Jim,
Yeah,
just for the future, if you want to go back, you can see where the semaphore is for a westbound, and that will tell you pretty much
Yeah.
what the others are.
yeah, okay. All right. Again in Sterling with a set of RS3s. Three C424s and a freight at Sterling again. Notice all the code lines. That's something we see today.
That's a lot. Sorry, were
Yeah.
those telegraph lines or something else?
Well, railroad communications of some sort.
They did not use telegraph in those days. It was too late. The
Yeah.
only place I know of that was using telegraph as late as the 70s was the B&O up on the line to Parkersburg, to Grafton, the mountain sub.
Okay.
So that's all railroad communication lines, or various mixed.
Actually, no, I'll take that back. Yeah, it's railroad communications, but it's probably phone lines.
Yeah.
The B&O on the Pittsburgh line used telegraph in the 70s.
All right. Here's the Pacific Express again in Sterling.
You know, Jim, I always thought it was an interesting piece of railroad trivia that the original designers of F and E unit diesels never intended for an A unit to be a trailing unit on a passenger train set. It was supposed to be A, B, B to keep the streamline line going all the way down. But of course, it never ended up being like that.
Well, that happened back in the 90s when the Santa Fe got their super fleet, and the GP60Bs, and then they had with the GP60 M's. I'm sorry, the straight GP60 col units. There was this notion that it would be nice and streamlined, but the motive power people would put whatever on they needed on the train to get it over the road, and the style wasn't as important as getting the passengers or the freight to their destination. Right. Yeah. All right, here's our first look at a PA matched up with a train master on a freight.
I think that was an original Erie unit because I don't think the Lackawanna had any PAs.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that another light right above the headlight, that little knob on the hood there?
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
That could be an MU connection.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jim.
It's in an awkward location, but that's what it looks like. Yeah. So here we have an F3, an RS3, and a PA1 and an RS3. Talk about a dog's breakfast. Well, and see, and here's the MU connection right here. So that just below the headlight. All right, now we've got a group from Creston. This is 3C425s. Again at Creston with a 424 and a 425. You can see the spotting difference. Bump out here under the grill or the hood, and none there. Another shot at Creston with 3 C424s. Here we are, Creston, and this is my research is correct, the Wheeling and Lake Erie crossing. Same location, another wave from somebody on the head end. 3 U-25Bs and an F-7A. Now we're in Marion, Ohio, which was, I believe, the shops for the Erie-Lackawanna, or one of the shops. The Nalco S2, a cow and a calf, and the PA1. This is at Marion. This is number 5, the Lake Cities. Rather short train.
That train came off in January 1970.
All right, so it lasted another 4 years. Now, this was in where was this train headed? Was this headed to Chicago?
Yes.
From New York? Okay.
Yes.
A trio of PA1s and a freight in Marion. And, okay, here we go. Look at this. That's definitely an MU receptacle up there. So that answers that question. Here we are at Kenton, Ohio, with a pair of PA1s, and we have a caboose back here. So I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know. I would think it might be just in transit.
Yeah, because I don't think they would. Well, you look at the exhaust, it's sort of trailing that way. So I think it's in transit. Lima, Ohio. I don't have a symbol on this train. Again, a fair amount of head-end traffic. And now we're in Dearborn Station in Chicago, taken from the Roosevelt Road overpass. What do we have? We have the Chicago and Eastern Illinois passenger car here. Santa Fe also shared this station, is evidenced by their freight house here.
That's just a very nicely composed picture with the ship Santa Fe banner in the background.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah.